It's been a long time in coming, in putting this 1 year process together. And one of the inspirations for this process we'll be doing is actually from rebirthing, rebirthing, which is one of the styles of breathwork. And one of the requirements for the breathwork training in rebirthing, and one of the supports as well, is what's called the 1 year seminar, where once a month people get together and go deeper in their process with the breath. So the important thing about breathwork, of course, is yes, the techniques, and it's yes, practicing the breathwork, and it's understanding a little bit of how it works, even though that's a mystery. How breathwork works in itself is quite, I still find it to be quite miraculous and quite mysterious. But then beyond that, breathwork is about what happens in your life afterwards. And that is what got me passionate about breathwork from the very beginning, was the fact that I saw the changes in my life. When I did my first 10 sessions of breathwork, 1 week we did relationships, and at the time I wasn't in a relationship, and then within a few weeks I attracted a relationship into my life. And then we did work with prosperity consciousness, and there were a few just really good movements forward in terms of my prosperity consciousness and actual manifestation of abundance in my life. So from week to week, when I was doing my very first 10 sessions of rebirthing, I could really see a shift every single week. And it was so exciting. It was so inspiring just to see how one's life can actually change as we start to transform those deeper belief systems. So the breathwork is about the actual breathwork. It's about doing the session, doing one's own work with it. But equally important is actually seeing how one's life changes, spending the time to observe the shifts in one's life. And that, of course, is something we can work on, in a group, like a support group set up in the months to come for this process. But it's also something that's really important for you to learn to see and discern for yourself, to learn to observe the little shifts that take place, to take note when there is a change in your life, when there's a significant shift. And remember, a significant shift can be in a positive sense, towards the things that you want, or it can be in the negative sense, where it feels like you're taking a step backwards, or it feels like something isn't working, allegedly. And those resistances are as important as the positive shifts forward, because the resistances are showing us where our deeper beliefs are hooking and getting stuck and not allowing us to move forward and to live with more of our truth, and to really give ourselves what it is that our head is saying we want to manifest. What is the deeper belief within ourselves that is preventing us from manifesting? So I will be explaining some of the models that I work with in terms of manifestation, and I'll be we'll be sharing some anecdotes and some experiences, and of course some tips. But this 1 year breathwork process is, on the one hand, about our get-togethers, one Sunday a month, but then very importantly the practice that you do afterwards. And for this 1 year process, there is a breathwork training process linked to it. I will give certification once people have completed the full training process, which I will lay out later. But even if you're not interested in doing the process of training, doing the actual manifestation process and really learning to see the benefits in your own life, I think is equally, if not more valuable, because when we have something like a 10-month process or a year-long process where we are kind of showing up every month, where we're holding ourselves accountable, where we're watching and observing ourselves, that is where we really learn to understand the power of the breath and the power of our beliefs and the power of mind. So we will be working with that aspect extensively throughout the next year. when people register and when people commit to this process, I will send you more of the outline. Although I did send an outline, for the dates and for what the themes are. Each one of these sessions will be themed, ranging from the birth scripts, ranging from the processes of manifestation, to looking at abundance, to looking at relationships and sex. As well as the last two sessions, we'll do a fire session, a fire purification session on the second last session in October. And then in November, we'll do a water breathe as well. So working with the element of water. And these themes loosely follow some of the layouts of rebirthing, because I trained as a rebirther, and there are some very beautiful processes and ways of working with breath work following the rebirthing philosophy, even though I won't be sticking to that philosophy strictly. There's a few things that I've learned since then that opens up other doors and other ways. But fundamentally, rebirthing is about, on the one hand, doing the analysis, understanding yourself, understanding your scripts, your subconscious and conscious scripts, learning to change those scripts through affirmations and other processes, and then working with the 5 elements in order to really integrate the stuff that we learn on a head level. So that integration, most importantly, obviously comes through the breath work, and we will do breath work every time we do one of these sessions, because the breath is related to the element of air. The element of air is related to the mind, higher mind, lower mind. And when we breathe consciously, when we breathe with awareness, we first of all balance the mind so that we can then enter a deeper subconscious state. And then from there, as we keep going deeper, we enter deeper trance, we enter a deeper, more expanded experience of ourselves. So that is where the real integration comes in, that is where the real power comes in. And through doing that, we kind of invoke this miraculous higher mind, the mind of the divine, of soul, of God, goddess. We bring that magical element into our lives, which causes a shift, and which causes us to then be able to really move on and become more. And so those 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire. The water aspect is the emotional aspect that we'll do a water breathe at some point, and that is also a very important part of rebirthing. Initially, rebirthing was very much about the element of water. The birth process in itself, which is the process of emerging from water, but then also, for example, the heart space, the heart space that we hold for ourselves and for others. And in that way, our relationships are an incredible mirror and an incredible way for us to understand ourselves. And then the element of fire is the doing. It's the purification of the anger, it's the purification of the frustration, so that we can get in touch with our truest passion, so that we can get in touch with the fire of our being, of our soul, to do in the world, to transform in the world, because of course the element of fire is about transmutation. And earth is the physical body, as well as our physical reality that we manifest and change and fine tune and shift through the blockages. The heavier emotions, the heavier belief systems get impacted into the physical body. So it's when we do the purification practices, when we do the breath work, we're taking this ether, this life force energy, putting it into the densest part of ourselves. And that air of the breath is aerating those heavier beliefs, those heavier fears, aerating it in order to shift and to open things up, so that we can become more air-like, we can be more connected to the mind, the higher consciousness of the divine. And then the 5th element is, of course, the element of ether, which is the element of the God consciousness, which relates to our spiritual practice and holding higher spiritual thoughts. So throughout this process, the 5 elements are very fundamental. But, our main approach is through the breath, because the breath gets us out of the lower mind, gets us into the higher mind. When we enter the higher mind, we can sort of really make these shifts happen a whole lot faster. And one of the analogies around breathwork that I really love and that really makes sense to me is that of, when we throw out the trash, we don't need to examine every little piece that's in that trash bag, which is what, some forms of analysis and psychoanalysis might do. With breathwork, we take the whole bag and we just throw it out. And a lot of that stuff is just released on an energetic level. Of course, the deeper patterns do need to be worked on. They do need to be shifted. But sometimes, if we kind of shift one energy, it shifts some of the other stuff as well. So again, we just throw out the whole trash bag. And therefore, our process of growth and healing becomes one of grace, where the grace of the divine, the grace of our soul has more space. Instead of getting involved in the psychological machinations of our story, of our narrative, we kind of make space for grace and for our highest, truest potential to come through. And then we can start to sort of just really live what our purpose is. And, living our purpose takes us back to that 5th element of ether, where we are doing what we're supposed to be doing here in this world, where we following, kind of what our soul signed up for in incarnating into this life. So this work with breathwork is obviously profoundly spiritual. It's that 5th element that holds all the 4 elements together. So that 5th element, the spirit element, is fundamental in this process. So one of the things we'll be looking at in this journey is what is our spiritual practice, what is our spiritual belief, how do we make space for that spiritual belief in our lives. And of course, whatever your spiritual belief is, I don't have a preference of it should be this or it should be that, as long as that spiritual belief is one of, I guess, transcendence as opposed to dogma. And it's when we transcend the ego, when we merge into God, Goddess, into the divine, that we make space for that miraculous to happen. But we'll be talking about those things as we move on through this 1-year process. But to start off, given that this is a processing journey as well, we'll start off by drawing a card. And this card will of course relate to where we are now today, and it might reflect back later, or it's something you might want to reflect on later when you do your breath work towards the end of the session. And the card that comes up here is Pontos, which is the god of the ocean. Not the same as Neptune, not the same as Poseidon. Pontos is the primal god of the sea and of the waters. So what that relates to is emotional purification. It relates to starting this process with a clean emotional slate. And that's actually very appropriate, because what that clean emotional slate implies for me is, first of all, connecting to our own sense of innocence, without the baggage, kind of invoking that. When we invoke that innocence of who we really are, perhaps who we were in simpler times, who we continue to remain, but that innocent self is very often overshadowed by the stresses of life and the distractions and so forth. So we want to return to that innocent self, that essence of who you really are, beyond the complications, beyond the, let's say, perversions of ego. The ego perverts our true self and kind of twists it into different shapes in order so that we can survive, in order that we can kind of just fit into the boxes of our lives. So when we return to that space of innocence, we return to an expansive sense of who we are, so that we can, that we can fully be and let the flow of our divine identity kind of happen and take place in the world without without any of those ego tricks for survival. And of course, I don't believe that we need to destroy the ego or kill the ego. I believe we just need to retrain it and show it new behaviors, show it new ways. And when we do something like breath work or other deep trance experiences, we show the ego that its answers and solutions aren't necessarily the right ones, and that there are other ways to survive. And as we learn some of those new ways of surviving, we not only make a little bit more space every time for the divine, but we also start to bring in that sort of miraculous side of shifts, of doors opening, of the inner world being reflected more and more in the outer world. So yes, Pontos there, and if people are intending to do this full process, of course today's first session is for people who are curious perhaps, or for people to get a feel of what this process will be about. But whether you're doing this out of curiosity or whether you're doing the full process, do make a note somewhere in your journal about Pontos, this clean slate, this beginning of a new emotional journey that allows us, first of all, to connect to our innocence, but then secondly, to restructure and live our relationships in the world in a new way. Our relationships with other people, of course, our relationship with ourselves, because reconnecting to that innocence of our true being is also about befriending ourselves, our own self, in a new way. Not, very often we play parent with ourselves. It's like, you should do this, or you did this wrong, and we want to kind of let that inner child emerge, let it show itself for healing, for acceptance, and of course then for greater growth. Because when that inner child is stunted, it maybe stays immature, or it hides from itself, it hides from the truth of our being. And as that inner child can emerge more and show itself more, we can see what our true spiritual identity is, what our true personality identity is in this world. So Pontos is about washing away the emotional complications, washing away the acquired baggage, so that we can return to the essence and the core of who we are. So we're going to do a visualization now, just to kind of get into the spirit of this process, and then after that we'll talk a little bit further about breath work and what we'll be covering today. So we're going to go into a visualization. My suggestion is you just sit comfortably, make sure your chair feels like it's stable, and we're just going to start off by closing our eyes then, and just taking a long deep breath, and on your exhale just let go. And now we're going to go into 20 breaths. So we'll start with 4 short breaths. Deep. 4 short. Good, and 5 more. And now just keep your eyes closed. Just feel your body as it is, connecting to that element of earth, which your body is, that element of earth, which is the container for your emotions, for your spirit, for your entire being. So just feeling that container, that body, be present, and at the same time just completely relax in your body. Feel the heaviness of your body. Feel that you are firmly centered, stable here on the earth, stable in your physical realm, in your physical space. Very good. And now just become aware of your emotions. And your emotions are like the water that fill this cup. If your cup is your body, the emotions, the water, fill up that inner space. So feel, first of all, what's happening in those inner waters. Are the waters turbulent? Are they calm? How can you clear those waters now? Maybe by taking a few deep breaths. Just let those waters, every breath you take, become calmer, become more clear. And set the intention now that in your emotional life, your emotional space, you return to your innocence, your deepest truth. It could be a childlike truth, or it could be a truth that is the very essence of your soul. Returning to that, becoming fully aware that your deeper emotions, your deeper emotional self are of unconditional love, of kindness, are of having an inner knowing, an inner intuition that connects you to a sense of purpose, connects you to your own intuition so that you always know what to do and know what the right path is for yourself. So connect to that knowing. And that knowing goes beyond the head. It's a deeper gut feeling knowing. So if there are any thoughts that are coming up, any distractions, just let those go. Just release, so that you can feel more present here, present with yourself. Now that your body, your emotions, your mind are reaching a place of peace and quiet, now expand your awareness to that fifth element, the you that is beyond your ego, the you that is inherently connected to the divine. So this you, in a broader sense, the soul you, just brings greater awareness, brings greater peace. And this is a broader experience of your inner knowing, your intuition. It's a broader experience of your personality. Your ego has one perception of who you are, which is often played out through thoughts and emotions. But what you're expanding into now is a much vaster you. So let that vaster you open. Let that vaster you calm you. Let that vaster you inspire. So now that you've connected on this level to your soul, your higher self, Just get a sense of where you are here this day, in this room, in this space. But get a sense also of how you project your vision forward now. And given that we're embarking on a journey that takes us through to the end of this year, perhaps you start to get a sense of who you would like to be by the end of this year. Emotionally, how would you like to feel? What state of consciousness and awareness? What state of day-to-day existence would you like to create? And also, what sort of experience in your outside world would you like? What's important for you? Are there issues in work that you need to resolve? Is there abundance that you need to call in? Your relationships, how fulfilling are they? Maybe they're not as fulfilling now as they could be, but project forward your vision to the end of the year, and by then, how would you like your relationships to be? How would you like your health to be? How would you like to feel in your body? And beyond that, what excites you in life? What projects? What other aspects of life do you want to create and work with and cultivate in order for you to be more of your true self, of your true potential? So as you start to reflect upon where you would like to be by the end of this process, I'd like you to get a sense of how that you would feel, that you fully project your consciousness into December 2023. And I want you to start off by feeling in your posture, in how you're sitting or standing or lying down, feeling in your posture, creating the posture of that person that you would like to be. So maybe it's more upright, maybe it's more focused and centered, maybe your chest is more open. And as your chest is more open, you can be more loving and you can be more steady and present in your body. So feel this, and then at the same time, feel that sense of fulfillment and meaning that you have. Imagine what it would feel like. Feel it now in this moment. Feel it in your body, perhaps as a flutter of energy, perhaps as some other emotion of joy that comes up, expansion. And being in this state, in this space, feel what more excites you in terms of your vision, the person that you're moving towards. And now as you settle into this you, I just want you to look back a little bit from this perspective of the you in December 2023. I want you to look back to that you in February. Maybe getting a sense of some of the limitations, some of the preoccupations. Maybe some of those preoccupations were valid, maybe not. But get a sense of it's all going to be all right. There are solutions, there are ways ahead, and in fact there's so much more waiting for you. As you look back on that you in February, maybe you also just get a sense of what you could do differently, what more you could do or what less you could do. So make space now for these insights, as well as the solutions perhaps, as well as an understanding of who else you can be. This is an opportunity you have to choose a new path, to do things differently, to welcome in new information, a new sense of knowing. So from this expanded state of the December you, just feel joy, feel hope, feel fulfilled, and above all, send back a sense of encouragement, a sense of purpose to that you in February. Very gently we'll start to come back, but perhaps there's just one other message that this future you holds, this you that you want to be by the end of the year. Maybe there's a message or an insight, something you need to know, something you need to do. So make space for that message now, either through words, colors, symbols, just a deep knowing. Very good. We'll start to return just to the body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes. But before you come back, before you open your eyes, just setting the intention for this breath work to take you deeper, for you to fully let go of the ego, fully let go of the things you're holding on to, so that you can really tap into your greatest depth, so that you can reach the greatest heights of your potential. So wiggling fingers and toes, slowly opening eyes, stretching. Good, well done everyone.